Hello, folks. This is Tucker. We'll be starting this in a couple minutes. 2-minute warning, everybody. My timer's not working right now. 2-minute warning. We'll see you soon.
Hello, my name is Nika and I am the CMO at Nimdzi Insights. I will be your host today as you join in on today's Nimdzi Live event. On Nimdzi Live, we talk about your favorite topics and on the latest and greatest in translation, localization, internationalization, culturalization, and all that fun global stuff that is needed to delight your international customers, or at least not really piss them off too much. On this program, we invite guests to share their knowledge and perspectives from across the world. We are always eager to provide a platform for those with a good story and a good data set. So let us know if there are any topics that you would like covered, and we will try to cover them. Today's topic is part 2 of a workshop that we were running on RFPs. In part 1, facilitator Tucker Johnson provided strategic frameworks, common sense best practices, and specific insider tips for RFPs and RFI organizers. RFP and RFI organizers. The event was to help conduct requests for proposals and to cut through any nonsense and deliver long-term value to organizations. This is a public, if you would like to learn more about this topic in general, Nimdzi has a report called Optimizing the RFP Process, which is available to Nimdzi partners, and you can get a preview of that report on nimdzi.com/optimizing the RFP process, and we can share that link in the comments. So in today's workshop, as I mentioned, this is part 2. We will be addressing the many questions and comments that we received during part 1, but I will let our special guest tell you more about this shortly. Perhaps you've heard of him already. If you have not, his name is Tucker Johnson, and it's not really him joining me, it's actually me joining him on this show. Tucker is the co-founder of Nimdzi Insights and host of Nimdzi Live, and today he will continue to share his expertise on this topic. So get your questions ready, and please don't be shy. Say hello in the comments, and we will try to get to them during the stream as we get to your comments from last stream. And before we begin, some housekeeping. So as your marketing manager, I'm going to ask you to subscribe if you haven't already. So here's your chance. If you're watching this, you can hit the subscribe button and follow. and you will be the first to be notified when we have live streams. You might get the little notification from LinkedIn on your phone or wherever you get your notifications. Now, a word about this platform. We're doing a live stream from LinkedIn because all of our friends are here on LinkedIn, and it makes it easy to share and invite people. And we encourage you to spread the word. So share this event if you think it's useful for somebody in your network. You can also find streams or snippets of our streams across the web and on social media channels. If you are passionate about language, which if you're watching this, you may be, follow us on Instagram. If you're looking for snippy updates on things that Nimdzi covers across different topics, market research, surveys, any research participation opportunities, consulting projects, industry announcements, all of that stuff, head on over to Twitter, which is where we will post that. And Facebook or Meta has all of this information as well. We post things on workshops, our success stories from clients across the globe, and all of that good stuff. So if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, you can also do that on the website. And very important note, in case the stream gets interrupted, sometimes this happens, don't panic, we will be back. But I believe, and this may be confirmed when I invite my special guest on, Tucker, we might also be streaming on other platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm not sure if we're actually streaming on all of those, but I'll let Tucker confirm in a moment.
We are all over the place here. We're on, look, we got Streamception here. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, all over the place.
Yeah, so if we get cut off, you can join us there or hop back onto LinkedIn. We'll get rolling again. So as your moderator, I will encourage you to have an active discussion in the chat. Again, don't be shy. Tag me if you want me to see the comments, but I will try to keep up as well. And without further ado, Mr. Tucker Johnson, hi.
Hi.
Why don't you tell us why we're covering this topic today?
We're covering this topic and I'll refer you back to an actual live workshop that we did a couple weeks ago before Nika and I both went on vacation on managing the RFP process. And we're doing this workshop. It was all instigated by a post on LinkedIn from somebody, from Libor Shafar. And the post was about the request for proposal process. And it's an area that there's not a ton of resources out there in our industry. And for larger localization programs that are required to go to an RFP process, there's a lot of misinformation, let's say, out there. And I mean, just to be blunt about it, I've read a lot of poorly written RFPs in my day. And that's not, a judgment against character or competence or anything like that. It's a judgment against you don't know what you don't know. So Nimdzi Insights, we have a stated mission to help our industry, essentially, in a word. And I thought this could be an opportunity to help our industry, providing some tips and tricks about the request for proposal process. That was on the previous workshop, but since then, for those of you that tuned in earlier, you should know that we've actually recorded a professional version. The demand for it, with the feedback that we got from you guys who joined us, was so good that we scrapped that live stream. You can still go back and watch it if you want, but we will be publishing an actual e-learning module on Nimdzi Learning. You can check out all of Nimdzi's e-learning modules at nimdzi.com/courses.
Excellent, Tucker. Thank you for that. Well, let's maybe start with the comments. We have a deck.
Yeah, we got a deck here somewhere. We got a deck. We do.
And
I'll get you out of the
way. These are comments that you left during the last stream, and there were so many we couldn't get to all of them. So we decided to do a part 2 and take some more time and go through them and address them.
Yeah. So let's dive right in here. Some of these might be a repeat because we did get to a few of them last time. But Jeff Allen, who's just always on our live streams. Jeff, if you're in the audience, hello, you might be here too. Says many translation buyers don't even know about all the different factors that lead to much more than price per word. And a lot of these comments aren't questions, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on them. But I did want to include this one in here because it speaks to what we were just talking about, is that clients don't know what they don't know. Buyers don't know what they don't know. And if you don't have a certain baseline to where you're asking the right questions, and we spent quite a bit of time on asking the right questions and going over, here's some actual RFP questions from the wild that we can look at and critique. But if you don't know enough to ask the right questions, then you're not going to get good responses, right? You ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer, as the saying goes. And so I thought that was, here I go using inflammatory language like stupid, but you get what I'm saying here. So I thought this was a great comment to start this off with.
And Tucker, maybe we can just take a moment to clarify who's submitting the RFPs and the RFIs, right? Because last time people were saying who's your audience here, right?
Right.
So, and how inclusive we want this to be, right? Because we're looking at things from different angles. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. And yeah, thank you for that, because that was a question last time. So the audience for this workshop is primarily buyers of language services, so meaning direct clients and buyers. So the big boys of the world that may work with MLVs, they may work with SLVs, whatever their model is. The big suppliers that need to go to RFP. Typically, translation providers like MLVs that are working with other SLVs aren't going through an RFP process with all of their vendors. They have a different onboarding process and contracting process with them. So typically, so the stated audience for this workshop is end buyers of localization services. However, we've been getting a lot of feedback from our colleagues in the industry on the LSP side, on the vendor side, that they got a lot of value out of this workshop, and I do believe that there's a lot of good stuff to be found in here for anybody who wants to take it, because that way we can kind of all be operating with the same level of information and kind of following the same rules of engagement when it comes to requests for proposals.
Well, it's good to see what the other side thinks about when you're working on your side.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's always helpful.
I think we have some comments in here about that. Maybe not. I don't know.
Excellent.
So this is a slide. This isn't a comment right here, but this is a slide from the workshop where we talked about different requirements that companies can have of vendors during an RFP process, and whether or not those were reasonable. And one thing that we're seeing is, as corporate social responsibility becomes more important here in the United States, it's been important for a while. In Europe, it's coming into popularity here. But as issues or challenges or events happening around social justice, diversity and inclusion, things like that, what is it appropriate for buyers of localization services to require certain things related to social justice, social movements, corporate social responsibility in the RFP? And so that slide, we had the whole conversation about that, but we don't need to rehash that, although we could, because I think it's perhaps more relevant now than it was 2 weeks ago, this concept of enforcing or mandating to your supply chain who they can and can't work with. It's a very topical, social responsibility, very interesting thing to be talking about right now. But what I wanted to look at wasn't that so much as Lucrezia's response here, which is, hey, Tucker, I don't think it's right to mandate what a vendor can or can't do. But if they want to know if they have certain policies or culture that corresponds to the one from the client, I think that's completely fair. And we wanted to highlight this, Nika, because I think I agree with this. I agree with Lucretia here. I don't have much to add here. The devil's in the details where you draw that line, but I think it is important to be asking questions of your vendors during the RFP process that give you some insight into what is their culture, what makes them tick. And that's important because if you're having a really hands-on partnership with your vendors, as we see very frequently. That's kind of the norm in our industry. Then you're going to be working very closely together, and you're going to want to make sure that you're a cultural fit. Your organizations are a cultural fit. So I do believe there's some room for that, but I'll draw the line when I see like companies in Silicon Valley, for example, telling their vendors who they are and aren't allowed to work with. China does something that American companies don't like. I'm speaking in hypotheticals now, guys. I could use real examples.
You could use real examples right here, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not even going to use China. I'm going to say frickin' Ecuador. Ecuador does something that pisses everybody off. And then we see Google, Facebook, Netflix, big end buyers, not hypothetically, writing to their vendor saying, I don't want any translators in Ecuador working on my content. I don't want any LSPs in my supply chain that are in Ecuador. And I'm not talking about situations either where this is a government mandate, like there's actual international sanctions. I'm talking about corporate activism on this. And I think this is largely born out of a place of ignorance because people don't understand how our language services industry works. They don't understand the complexity of the supply chain, and that if you want Ecuadorian Spanish, you're going to have to contract with some Ecuadorians. And it's just as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, you could use real life examples, and you're giving the corporate example, then not the mandated government stuff. But that's a whole other can of worms that we can talk about as well.
Yeah, a lot of people. Okay, we're not. Yeah, agreed. That is a can of worms that hypothetically we could be discussing right now. I absolutely agree with you on that. Oh, look, another comment. Catherine Santora. Sorry, Nika, you're supposed to be dry. Am I doing all right here? All right.
You're doing great.
Keep me in line.
My guest, Tucker Johnson.
Participant comment from Catherine Santora.
Localization account manager, TransPerfect. If not already asked, can you discuss translation samples? What is reasonable when it comes to free samples?
I think this question is, sorry guys, I didn't really look at these before coming on. I think this question is really dependent upon whether we're talking about requesting samples from freelance translators or whether we're talking about requesting samples from LSPs. Now we're getting into Tucker's opinion territory here, but just to respond to this with my opinion, I would say that if you're asking freelancers to provide sample translations, you should remunerate them for that. It can be at a reduced rate. You can offer a reduced rate than what you would normally charge, but you should offer something. There needs to be a quid pro quo. There needs to be some form of give and take to show that you, as the requester of this free translation, I'm not going to even talk about requesting sample translations. Let's call it what it is. It's a requesting work for free. Right? So if you're requesting work for free of an individual that's part of your supply chain, you value their services, I would recommend that you offer to remunerate them for that. And you also let them know this is a test translation, so do a good job, right? Particularly because it's a test translation and the expectation is that you do a quote-unquote good job on it. You don't want them deprioritizing it when it comes to it. Now, if we're talking about requesting translations, let's say an end client comes in, Microsoft wants to work with one of the big guys. Let's go with RWS or WeLocalize or SDL, and somebody that's working with an SLV supply chain model. So somebody that's a big company that's contracting with smaller LSPs, then I would make the argument that you have a little bit more flexibility here because you're not taking money out of an individual, a worker's, a team member's pocket. You're passing a cost burden onto your supply chain, another company in your supply chain. And if they want to work with you, then they'll do that. And hopefully they'll eat the cost because they're going to be paying their freelance translator for that. Now, is that the way that it always works? No. Is that the way that everybody agrees with it should work? No. That's hey, I'm in the hot seat, so I get to pick my answers. And that's my answer to that one.
Excellent. Your perspective. All right. Thank you, Tucker. We got another comment here from Michael Dutton, who is a freelance Finnish and English language services provider. And he says,
hey, Catherine's here. Hi, Catherine. She's in chat.
hey, Catherine.
That's all. Sorry for interrupting.
It's also super valuable.
And Jeff. Sorry. God, sorry for interrupting. And then I interrupt 3 seconds later. Hi, Jeff. Ellen.
Got excited. Yeah, feel free to. I see that. Hey, Jeff. It's also super valuable from a translator/supplier's POV to understand the tender process more from the LSP and buyer POV. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well...
Kind of mentioned that a second earlier.
I'll fight the urge to make a pun about tender processes, but I will note for my American compatriots here that tender, RFP, tender, request for proposal, I mean, these terms are used interchangeably. Tenders, I think that's used more commonly in Europe. But yeah, that's what we were talking about, and I absolutely agree, Michael. Thank you for commenting, because it really helps. Like, you take one of my workshops about that's targeted towards the vendors, that's targeted towards salespeople, or people that are writing proposals or putting together business plans, and all of that stuff. And the one thing that I'm always talking about, I'm talking about empathy. Empathy. Put yourselves in the shoes of your clients. Put yourselves in the shoes of your stakeholders. And how better to do that than to kind of understand some of the challenges that they're facing. And this workshop on RFPs, although it's targeted towards end buyers of localization services, it can provide kind of a behind-the-scenes look for LSP, whether you're in sales or solutions, to allow them to understand how to better empathize with their clients, I would say.
Yeah. And just to add, for me, it's really important to try to see things from a different perspective when making a decision, because sometimes you might make an instinctive decision or maybe an emotional decision or whatever. You're making a decision from one perspective. It really helps when you see what everybody's seeing to create to make a fair decision. Mm. So with business and colleagues, understanding where their priorities lie and what their goals are will ultimately help you in your job. That's what I think. Yeah.
One thing I say quite frequently is you've got two jobs. And that's to make your client's life easier, to help them get a better sleep at night, and to make them look good to their boss, right? And in order to do that, you need to understand what challenges they're facing so that you can help them with those challenges.
Yeah. Consulting's about consulting, but it's really about listening.
Yeah. Consulting's great because you just get to ask a bunch of questions, and if you say them in the right tone, and if you pause in the right places, then those questions could sound really smart.
That's funny. But it really is about listening. So many of our clients, right, they come and they want to make sure that what they're doing is right, that they've got the roadmap figured out, and they just need somebody who's an external to come in and say, hey, this is good, maybe shift a little bit here, but you're on the right path.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you need to listen, you need to understand, you need to see the different POVs, right?
Yeah.
Perspectives.
Yeah, we do a lot of like sanity checking here at
we try.
Which is like, hey, can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? And it's like, yeah, you're doing pretty good. Actually, you're doing pretty good. Let's go on though, because this is my my next slide here, because we were kind of talking about this, how this is going to be interesting to everybody. So if you are out there and you're not a buyer, you're not putting together an RFP, maybe you work for an LSP, maybe you're a freelance translator out there, we've got resources for you too out there. The glorious Marina Ilari has a course available at nimdzilearning.com that I wanted to.
Hi, I'm Marina Ilari. So you are a great translator and you are ready to take on new clients. How do you go about finding the right clients? This might not be something that you learned at school. I certainly didn't. My experience came from over 15 years in the translation profession, learning from my mistakes, learning from my successes, and I also had the honor of interviewing over 140 translators through my translation podcast. I truly believe in learning from our colleagues. I think that's a great way to advance in our career. And in this course, I hope to give you some practical tips so that you can sell your services as a freelance translator. See you there.
Oh, thanks, Marina.
Beautiful.
She's so
That's a
rad.
good course.
What's that?
That's a good course.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And what I'm really happy about that is, we're trying to provide something. I don't want to talk about Nimdzi the whole time, but we're trying to provide something for everybody out there. We're trying to make sure that all levels of the value chain are taken care of. So even though we're doing this course for LSBs, please do not feel excluded, because the reality is language services buyers represent a very small. They're at the top of the food chain. The predator. There's less predators in the ecosystem than there are krill in the ocean. So we love the krill too. I'm an ex-krill.
Well, you know what? We are a market research company, right? So we are researching a lot of different things in this industry. So part of our audience is translators, is freelancers, interpreters, and we work on projects with them because they have their expertise and we can provide information about their work to our industry and people outside of our industry too.
Agreed. All right. What do we got next?
No professional left behind.
No professional. Hashtag.
No professional left behind. All right. We got a comment from Agostina. Agostina from Ushuaia. And she's a BDM. Quick question. Does it make sense to include MLV and SLV/regional suppliers into the same RFP?
It could, right? This is another consultant thing. Like you just ask a bunch of questions. We love the word "it depends," or the term "it depends," because it really does depend. It depends upon what you're trying to accomplish. So, for example, like what would that look like? What's a scenario where that looks like it could make a lot of sense? A scenario is if you're not really sure what kind of vendor strategy that you're looking at. You're looking for a single vendor strategy or a multiple vendor strategy. Perhaps you're looking for a multiple vendor strategy because you want that redundancy built in to the process. To mitigate risk. Perhaps you're an end client and you want let me get back here. Perhaps you want a multiple vendor strategy. However, you're not allowed to pursue a multiple vendor strategy because your procurement department has very clear guidelines. They don't like the risk associated with having a single vendor. They don't understand localization enough to believe the economies of scale that happen when you go with a single vendor or a single source strategy. So you lose that battle and you have to have multiple vendors. So in such a case, it could make sense to allow respondents, and we covered this in the workshop, like you need to make sure that everyone you're sending the RFP to, it's very clear to them what portions, if not all, of the RFP they're allowed to, or they're being invited to respond to. So, or if it's allowed that they send a partial response. Like, are you saying, vendors, please send me your proposals for all or nothing? Don't send me anything. Or are you saying you can bid on all of it, you can bid on some languages, you can bid on whatever you feel comfortable with, because we're going to take all of this into account and we're going to onboard the 5 vendors that we like the most. Or we're going to onboard 1 vendor for each region. Or we're going to onboard whatever it may be. So I guess that's just a fancy way of elaborating on it depends, because it really does. But it could make sense.
Well, it seems to go back to organization, right? So if your content is organized, then you're eliminating confusion. Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactamundo. All right. What do we got next here? Oh, I know this guy.
This guy. Yeah, Joseph. Participant comment from Joseph Kubowski. Joseph is the CEO at Nimdzi. And he says, Joseph Bonnet on
Yes.
the Nimdzi team is ready to support you with your government tenders when creating or answering an RFP as well. Thank you, Joseph. His favorite strategy is to make sure all the vendors are well heard and have the same opportunity, as Tucker just mentioned. And again, this is a comment from the previous stream.
Yeah, I forget what I had just mentioned, but this is, yeah, I want to talk about this, because one of the challenges that we've heard from our LSP clients is putting together an organized way to respond to RFPs, and we help our clients with that, of course. It becomes particularly, there are unique challenges around government RFPs, and in my workshop, I focused mainly on private sector corporate RFPs in the language services industry, choosing not to focus on responding to government tenders. Government tenders, there's a lot less flexibility there and a lot less consistency, because every government is going to have a way that they do things. And when I say every government, I mean domestically here. Nimdzi is a supplier for the federal government. We're in the SAM system. We're a supplier to various states, which means that we are like licensed to do business in those states. We have to go out and get that license to do business, because that's one of the requirements to respond to tenders from those states. So we'll respond to RFPs or tenders from the feds, Uncle Sam. We'll respond to fed tenders from each state, Missouri, California, Oregon, all of these states that we're doing business in. We'll respond to tenders from counties, county level RFPs. We'll respond to tenders from cities. So, and each one of those, at each part in the process, there's different landmines to be aware of. And what we've found here at Nimdzi, it really helps to have an organized, structured way to respond to government tenders. And that's what our friend, and I don't know if it's Joseph or Joseph, I've never actually talked to him in person, is helping our clients with today. He currently works at, I don't want World WTO. I want to say he's currently at the WTO, but moonlighting as an Nimdzi consultant, as many of our colleagues do. So, yeah, I guess that's just a poorly disguised plug for, if you need help with government tenders, talk to Nimdzi.
And Tucker, you're right. It was WTO.
WTO, yeah. Sorry, Joseph, for botching the plug for you there. But, yeah, smart guy, been doing this for years.
Excellent. Thank you, Joseph, and thank you, Joseph. Okay, next comment was from Agnes, and I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Milchik?
Milchik. Hey, well, don't ask me.
She's a localization fashionista. She's saying, your buyer's perspective.
That is an awesome job title, by the way. That is an awesome job title, localization fashionista. Kudos.
Yeah, or creative, like was Aki's Akito, his I think on LinkedIn he was localization rock star.
I didn't even know that, but I was gonna say he should have a localization rock star, because he is the localization rock star.
think you had that on. I don't know if you still have it, Aki, but you can take a look. But Agnes is saying here, your buyer's perspective is giving me a lot of ideas how to support my future prospects who are new localization buyers, Tucker. So a nice little comment from Agnes.
Well, thank you, Agnes. I wholeheartedly agree with your flattery and praise of my workshop.
Thank you, Agnes. Good. And that's what we're here to do, right? To provide perspective.
It's what
All
we
right.
do.
Yeah, that's what we do. Okay, so here we have a bit of a longer comment. Let's just read it. This is from Valdemar Frank from, is it Passia Consulting Services?
Sure.
So I'm going to read this. Depending on a company's needs, complex requirements that cover the needs across an organization, departments, functional areas, etc., could be managed through a phased RFX approach.
And by that, I think he just means like RFI, RFP, because it all kind of melts together. Yeah.
Or request for
whatever
approach. This allows you to manage the information complexity by grouping questions and information into general needs for information RFI and specific detailed needs for information RFPs to support your general needs, a specific initiative, a one-off large project, etc. For example, an RFI can help narrow down a pool of participating LSPs that meet minimum requirements. The RFP then qualifies the remaining LSPs to select the top X number, that meet the specific needs and requirement of your company. Phase 1 RFI, Phase 2 RFP, Phase 3 negotiations with selected LSPs, Phase 4 sign-off on MSA or SLA. And then he says below, also, I would prepare a separate service level agreement in your SLA, either as a subsection of the MSA or as a standalone document to cover performance expectations. An SLA is often a forgotten component of the relationship.
I don't have anything to add. This is solid. And that's why I copy and pasted the whole thing into this slide. This is solid. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank.
Go into the blog.
Yeah, no, I might just steal this slide. I think I already recorded the e-learning, but I should have stolen the slide and just put it in the e-learning because this is good. This is solid. This lines up with all of my experience. If it doesn't with your guys' in comments, let us know. But it's a really good, concise summary, and that's why I wanted to highlight it today.
Yeah, thank you for writing all that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Next, we have Rodian.
I'll let you handle the names.
I don't know. I'm trying.
I feel bad because I feel I have a relationship with so many people in our industry, like from contacting each other via email, LinkedIn, whatever. And then when I finally meet people in person or on video chat for the first time, I realize I have no idea how to pronounce your name. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, well, if it's any space, it would be our space because everyone is from all over the world and from every country.
Yeah, I think we're pretty forgiving in our industry. Thank you.
Yeah. So if we are butchering your names, we are very sorry, but we're trying. We're trying. So he's saying, how much do you think? Oh, and by the way, this is Rodian?
Yep.
Rodian?
I don't know.
He is the head of international sales at EGO. EGO, translating company. And he's saying, how much do you think should a buyer give away at a proposal preparation phase? Like their experience with previous vendors, maybe their names even, and then about pricing, comfy pricing. So how much should we be giving away?
It's a great question, and you probably know the answer. Say it with me, everybody. It depends. It depends. The argument that I make that I'll reference back in the original workshop is there's no right answer. So in absence of quote unquote right answers, I always look for guiding principles or best practices. And to me, the guiding principle that I can recommend is the level of transparency that you would like to have with your vendor once you sign the MSA, send the PO, get started on work, you're chugging along. The level of transparency that you want to have with them at that stage is the level of transparency that you should strive for in your RFI, RFP. Meaning, try to be transparent is what I would say if you want that sort of relationship with your vendors. Now, there's considerations to take into account. Sign the NDAs, of course. Do all of that. Make sure to check with legal. Check with legal. Check with legal. I keep saying check with legal. Check with legal. Hashtag not legal advice. Anything you hear from us on Nimdzi, that's why we keep saying check with legal before putting your RFPs together. But my advice is as much transparency as possible. And here's why. The goal here, I'm speaking to the LSBs, buyers, language services buyers out there who are issuing RFPs. The goal isn't to make your vendor's life easier. It's not. Vendors, close your ears for a second. The goal isn't to make your vendor's life easier. Screw them. They work for you, right? You write them the PO. That's not the goal. The goal is to make your life easier, because the more transparent you are with your vendors, the more intelligent of responses you're going to get in the proposal. I shouldn't say intelligent. I should say responses that accurately respond to the points that you needed them to respond to, if that makes sense. The more they know about what you're doing, the better position they're going to be in to provide a response to your request for proposal that's really hitting on all the key points. Mm-hmm. All right, vendors, you can open your ears again. Sorry for saying we shouldn't care about it.
All right. That's a good question.
Oh, look, I even had a slide on it. Probably should have shown that. As a rule, I typically tend to err on the side of transparency unless there is a good and real reason not to. I believe that's a quote from me during the workshop. So I agree with this quote.
Yeah, I agree with this quote.
My name is Tucker Johnson. I endorse this quote from Tucker Johnson. I also endorse this gentleman's beard. Kudos, sir. Kudos.
Hello, Joshua. A comment from Joshua Mallory, and he's a proposal writer, and he's with a Corby.
Oh,
how does
nice.
the writing style of an RFP differ from the writing style of proposals?
One's boring, and one's prescriptive. I mean, the RFP is a set of instructions. It's an instruction manual, essentially. You're not trying to win over any hearts and minds when you're writing an RFP. You're trying to write a clear and concise document that probes and asks the right questions, surveys the right people, so that you're going to get answers to your questions. And because of that, the language should be, if we have a spectrum here where it's like on this side you have creative marketing writing, flowery stuff, lots of commas. And on this side you have legalese, also lots of commas, also lots of semicolons, but very boring, very dry. The RFP is going to err more on the side of the legalese, whereas the proposal is going to err more on the side of flowery and creative. Because with the proposal, the goal is different. I just said the goal of the RFP is to provide an instruction manual on how you want your vendors to respond. The goal of the proposal absolutely is to win hearts and minds. It absolutely is. So you're going to have marketing language in a proposal. Where else would you put marketing language if not in a proposal for services that you're trying to sell? So that would be my response. And of course, it depends. I need a button for that. It depends, because if I'm putting a proposal together for, We were looking at a company not too long ago called Oatly. Oatly. My colleague Christopher over in South Africa. Where is Christopher? Christopher's not in South Africa. He's in Spain. Anyways, my colleague Christopher was talking to them. And Oatly is an oat milk company that is, they're cool. I mean, that's their brand voice. They're cool. Like, go to their website and they're cool. I mean, they'd be cooler if they bought from Nimdzi, but they're cool. So in a proposal, you're going to include much cooler language, much hipper language. You're going to try to mimic the style and voice of the client. Now, if I'm doing a proposal the next day for NASA or a government, like a government tender, I'm not going to try to be cool. I'm going to try to make sure my punctuation is correct. I'm dotting all my I's, crossing all my T's, and then I'm doing everything I can to deliver a responsive proposal, meaning it's not marked as unresponsive, meaning it dotted all of the I's and crossed all of the T's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if anyone has things that they would love to add to this question, and I'm sure Tucker would also love to hear your thoughts on that, right?
Yes, please.
So,
please.
This is a reminder to not be hesitant to drop your comments into the chat.
Do we
want to hear, again, this is our perspectives from Tucker's experience from, your job is to hear all of those things and then make your own decision. So if somebody's got their expertise, go ahead and please let us know in the comments and then help us all learn.
Yeah, I've got comments mixed up. I did a live stream earlier this morning and all the comments are mushed together here, but I did see that Karina Balbo, who's watching, hi, we just talked about you, says proposals follow the format suggested in the RFP, which is a really concise way of answering the question that I took way too long to answer from Joshua here, which is, how does the writing style of an RFP differ from the writing style of a proposal? Well, Karina, to your point, that's really good because we talked in the workshop about the importance of clearly outlining your expectations of your vendors when you're putting together an RFP. So if you want a certain voice or a certain format or a certain style, make sure to outline that in your RFP document because that's what the RFP document is. It's an instruction manual. An instruction manual should tell you how to respond up to, perhaps, and including what style you would like that response in.
Exactly. And going back to the it depends comment, we have a comment from Jeff Allen saying, Tucker, for it depends, I made a video a few days ago about how do you pronounce SAP.
I saw
and he says with an answer providing special category of acronyms called it depends.
Yes, we just... I think that's a reference. Jeff is binging Nimdzi Live today because that was a reference. We just talked to Christopher Hearn from United Language Group, and he's the head of SLP, I should have watched Jeff's video, head of SAP over at United Language Group. We talked about some interesting horror stories. People lose a lot of money when they botch international SAP rollouts. We're talking $200 million. So,
all right. Okay, next comment we have from Ayman Saad, Success Manager Contech. And he says, can you share what metrics localization buyers should look at to shortlist vendors who apply for RFPs or for an RFP? This will help both sides to do better businesses.
You want to say it or should I?
1, 2, 3.
It depends. Of course, it always depends. Now, and what does it depend on, right? It depends upon the culture of your organization and many other things. Some organizations are allergic to spending money, especially if they're spending money on things that they don't understand. Most organizations don't understand localization, right? And those are going to prioritize price usually, right? I'm not saying you should prioritize price, but there are situations where you need to prioritize price. You need something done. You need it done quick, cheap, efficiently. You perhaps don't care so much about anything else. That's the stage that you're at. move fast and break things, all of that stuff, then prioritize price. If you're looking to onboard a vendor for like a more complex, ongoing partnership, how much are you expecting your vendor to help you drive innovation, come up with new ideas, proactively suggest you things like, if that's the type of relationship that you're looking for, you're not going to want to just look at price, because those guys aren't going to be the cheapest vendors out there. You're going to want to look at the experience you're going to want to look at all of the stuff we told you to look at in the original workshop, but you're going to want to look particularly at experience levels. You're going to want to ask experience levels of the project managers, vendor managers, quality managers, up to and including potentially the translators, although that's another can of worms, that will be working on your program. Every LSP has one or two solutions architects, senior project managers with really impressive resumes who can talk really smartly, know their stuff. And they're going to send those guys to the oral presentations. They're not going to send your junior translators. So you want to make sure that, am I working with the senior guy who talked real good at the oral presentation, or am I working with a junior translator or a junior project manager that's going to be assigned to my program? No hate on junior project managers. We all start somewhere. But you want to look at the metrics pertaining to that. Average length of employment, what's the company turnover rate? That's a metric that I love looking at, because it kind of shows in one statistic, do employees like working at this company? Do they continue working? What is the level of institutional knowledge that's retained, or are people constantly turning over? So that average years of employment, or average, employee turnover, is something that I would look at.
Mm-hmm. And again, you're building a partnership here, right? You're going on you're dating here.
Yeah.
You're choosing your partners or partners, right? So
dating's a really good analogy, and we could explore that. I mean, if we had more time, we could explore that analogy a little bit, but we don't. But essentially, it is dating, right? You go on Tinder, right? What's Tinder? What's Tinder for the language services industry?
What is Tinder?
This
Tinder's
one, right here.
Dating.
No, this is your Tinder. This is your catalog. This is your book full of mistresses or misters. Anyway.
This is opportunity.
I want to be inclusive here. This is opportunity. This is the Nimdzi 100. It's a list of the 100 largest language service providers in the world by revenue. So that's your Tinder. And then, you swipe, I don't use Tinder. You swipe right, you swipe left, and you invite some people to your RFP. You go on a first date perhaps with an RFI. You learn a little bit more about them. You have an RFP. That's your second date. Eventually, they're going to invite you to meet the parents. That's your oral presentations, right? You send the MSA, negotiations. That's your prenup, and then you get married. And then you hope that relationship lasts longer than most marriages, because changing vendors is a pain in the ass.
Which goes back to the fit and asking the right questions at the right stages. Excellent.
Yeah. Well, speaking of metrics, there's another e-learning course available from my colleague, Miguel Sepulveda, who I'm going to play for you here. Well, did we play this during the actual workshop, Nika?
I think we did, but let's review it.
All right.
Because it's a good course.
Yeah, it is a good course, and it's quick. So I'm going to let you hear directly from Miguel here.
Data. Never in the history of humanity we all had access to so much data. Traditionally, access to information was somewhat difficult. I'm sure you are familiar with the expression, information is power, right? Today, that statement, while still valid, I think is missing a word to keep it relevant. That word is useful. Useful information is power. In a world where data abounds, the ability to separate the wheat from the chaff is a rare and precious skill. Hello everyone, my name is Miguel Sepúlveda, and I will be your instructor in this localization KPIs course. In all the years that I have been working in the localization industry, I have often observed the struggles of localization teams to craft meaningful localization KPIs. This is what I'm going to teach you in this course. You will learn how to create a KPIs ecosystem to help you understand how to improve your localization strategy. The course has 2 parts. In the first part, I will teach you the differences between data, metrics, and KPIs. You will learn which are the localization operations metrics that will be useful to take your localization strategy to the next level. In the second part, you will learn what you need to know about localization strategic KPIs and how you can communicate these strategies to the leadership team. This will help them understand how your localization efforts impact the organization objectives. The compilation and analysis of localization KPIs is your best ally in detecting critical points and opportunities, and you'll be learning all that in this course. Shall we start?
Thank you, Miguel. I love Miguel.
And again, the courses could be found on nimdzi.com/courses. So that's one of our more recent courses. We actually have a new one that just came out with Yulia Kulkova.
We do. Do I have that?
All around tech.
I think I have that. No. All right.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
I plugged that during the last one. Yeah. So if you like language technology, but you don't have the hours and hours to study, just like go down the rabbit hole, there's a great e-learning course. We just launched it from Yulia Kulkova, the master brain, the big brain behind the Language Technology Atlas, aka the Language Technology Landscape, the TMS Compare tool, the TMS, all of the interactive stuff that we have. Pretty much if you go to research here, go down to technology, Yulia's got her fingers all over that. And she's just launched an e-learning course, which, well, shoot, let's just go on over there so I can show you guys.
Yeah. And I believe it just came out yesterday.
Yeah, it just came out yesterday. Well, my internet's being slow because I'm straight. Oh, here it is. And right here, Introduction to Language Technology is the name of the course. Price, free? Really?
It's free.
Is this free for everybody?
I believe so.
No, really?
I believe so. I believe so.
Good for us. I mean, that's awesome. I thought we'd shareware that stuff, but
So yeah, most of our courses you get there's a couple courses lessons that you can take as a trial.
Mm-hmm.
And then all courses are open to all Nimdzi partners.
Okay.
But some courses are free for everybody, and this is one of them.
Nice. Well, let's speaking of courses and speaking of free, we're doing another free event coming up here on, I don't have a date on this slide. It's coming up. Go to the Nimdzi Live link, or Nimdzi LinkedIn, and go to our events, and we've got a whole slew of events coming up. One of them is a free workshop. And to be clear, these workshops, as Nika just mentioned, normally that's stuff that's reserved for our partners. So we're going to take them and make them into e-learnings, and we do private workshops for Nimdzi customers and all that stuff. But these live workshops are just a great way of making sure that the content is accessible, although not bundled into a nice, convenient little e-learning like it eventually will be. It's accessible to people, and it's out there for free. So this one's coming up. It's a 2-hour workshop, so clear your calendars. 2 hours. We're going to try to get to customer communication and managing client expectations.
And it probably will help you start conversations too, right? Before you go out and put your final course out, by providing a space for streaming and a workshop that's accessible. We get a lot of feedback from people, and then we can incorporate that into the final product, which might be a course or a workshop later on.
Yep. This
Excellent.
one is tomorrow. Hacking into language services with, hey, we got a Corby in the comments too, with Jesse Glassman from a Corby, and we're going to be talking about cybersecurity. This was set up a couple weeks ago, I think, but due to recent events happening around the world pertaining to cybersecurity, this topic is more relevant now than ever, and I'm very much looking forward to picking Jesse Glassman's brain on what things we need to be aware of in the language services industry. And that one's tomorrow, so you can go sign up for that one now. Nika, tell us about this one.
Okay, my friends. So we released the Nimdzi 100 ranking. Your Tinder list?
Our Tinder list, yeah.
We released the ranking last week, and we will be having the full report come out in just a few weeks. And the full report includes sections on trends, on all of the things related to language and services industry that you want to know. And right around when the report's coming out, we're going to have this. We were deciding, are we going to do a webinar or are we going to do a live stream? We ended up deciding to do a live stream, and we're going to have Sarah Hickey, VP of Research. We've got Renato Beninato joining, Gabriel Kandashowski, and Belen. So a workshop with all of them, a live stream / webinar where they're going to cover the different sections of the report. And the report, of course, is always free. We don't charge for the report. It's going to be available for download in the next few weeks as well.
Nice. So
head on over to nimdzi.com and search for the Nimdzi 100. Grab that report when it's out. And if you want to look at the ranking, go look at it now. There's also a place for you to sign up to receive the report in your email if you want to receive it in your email when it comes out. So that is coming out soon. And it's the Nimdzi 100 live stream, not a webinar.
And 100% less Tucker than you were accustomed to, which is a good thing. I'll be working the stream deck behind the scenes.
He will still be there. You might just not really see him.
I'll be on mute.
So a shout out to Loc Worldwide, happening March 7th through the 9th. You can still sign up for it. We wanted to give this event a special shout out. So take a look at the event, register if you haven't already. Tons of things happening around this event. Also want to give a shout out to Global Sake, who's got a number of events happening this year, a number of Loc Walks happening this year. Their first Q1 event is happening on Thursday. So I'm bringing my team to it. And let me know if you're joining. There's a good turnout. And you can read all about the topics.
You gals are going over there?
Yeah, we're gonna go. Yeah.
Is it in person?
No, it's not in person.
Oh, okay.
It's a online event.
Nice.
And
yeah, what's cool about Global Sake is they host all of these virtual events, and you can get, where was it? I just had it here. All-inclusive passes. There's different packages and different passes and stuff, but you can get an all-inclusive pass and you're in. You got priority registration for all of the events. So if you're like me and you don't like filling out forms multiple times, I would go for that all-inclusive pass.
Yeah, and you get all the recordings with it and a ton of perks as well.
Yeah. So
shout out to Global Sake as well. And finally, one of my favorite shout outs of the day is multilingual.mercantile.com, which is the place you can get all sorts of swag. We've been rocking it here at Nimdzi and with our colleagues at Multilingual. My favorite thing is the baby onesie top right now. It's going up. And it says I scream in multiple languages. So you can get all sorts of stuff there. From hats and caps and onesies for your baby.
I scream in multiple languages. Yeah, wow. And that kid is rocking the mullet. Respect it. Oh, different colors. That's cool.
Clearly pink. So all sorts of fun swags to add color to your day. And I've had a couple people asking you where can they get it. Well, you can get it there. And I can share the link in our
I'll
chat.
do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
You're busy hosting today. Please allow me.
So with that, I want to thank everybody who's been joining part 1 and part 2. My dog, who is clearly trying to go on a walk. And yeah, if you're watching this after we go live, still put in your comments. We go and we get notified when there's stuff happening. So follow us, subscribe. You'll hear when we have new events coming out. And yeah, we got a lot of things happening at Nimdzi. We hope to see you. And we hope that you're following along with the many, many different things we're trying to do. Tucker, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Nika. Well, when are you hosting your next one?
My next event?
Yeah.
Very
Who's
soon.
going to be your first guest? And technically, this isn't Nimdzi Live. We got our branding all messed up. I need to talk to my marketing officer about that. But this is a workshop. But when are you hosting a Nimdzi Live?
A Nimdzi Live? I have a guest in mind, and I should reach out to her. But I would like to talk about education in the bilingual education. I have a friend who wrote a book, and she just published a book. She is a teacher. I think it's an interesting topic. If that's something that people are interested in, let me know. If it's something that you don't want to hear about, let me know. But as we mentioned in the beginning, we talk about all things related to language, translation, localization, culturalization, all that stuff. So we want to bring different perspectives in. That's the point of the show. We're bringing in different people from different parts of the world, different functions, different roles, and sharing that with the people that we can using this platform.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Yeah.
With that, I'm 3 minutes late to my next meeting. I don't know about y'all, but you have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.
Amen.